During the course of our time together the next few days, there will be points where you'll hear me reading from a book I've been writing for the past couple of years. It's called the TAC Legend Writings, and those of you who are keeping up on the blog know that there's already several excerpts of the TAC Legend Writings that are posted. But I'm going to be reading some very specific portions of this book, and I think in light of this summer music connection that we're doing, it'll bring some of this TAC Legend writing alive with very specific points to do with the subject matter that we're talking about during the next few days. So, without further ado, I'll be reading from this particular section where Master Manlon is speaking about intonation. The subject came up, how can two people tune together? And so the Master Manlon started to speak with the students about this subject. Here we go. If we take a very simple situation, Master Manlon said, with two people who are trying to play a note in tune, and they are having trouble doing it, how will they come to an agreement over that pitch? Selby raised her hand, and Master Manlon acknowledged her to speak. She said that both could go to an objective source outside of themselves, like playing for another person or a mechanical tuning device. Then they could see who was out of tune and make the needed adjustments. That's a possibility, of course, said Master Manlon. But it is a very one-dimensional approach that makes exactness and specificity a tight subject in our attitude, thus limiting our sensitivity and creativity. If two people are trying to come to an agreement, which tuning is, oftentimes compromise is involved. In music making, it can be very useful to think of blend, especially in regards not only to ensemble, but to intonation. When we blend, we let go of just our idea and feel more how we can fit inside another sound or another pitch. Master Manlon continued, timbre matching or timbre mixing can be another angle to find blend and or pitch. This is all first overlay work. To be the same as or match a particular sound, pitch, or frequency is tuning, is it not? Tuning is being in harmony or alignment with something. Why people have problems tuning is they confine themselves to a concept and a single-minded approach to it. This makes tuning narrow. Now, if we are tuning into something, we have to find our way to be with it, go to where it is, and that requires an exactness and a flexibility. But our approach to finding that exact something can be multiple. So we can say that tuning is the process of coming into proximity and eventual contact with something on a specific frequency. So, looking at the fact that we've talked about the original you, and we've talked about subjective and objective, it's interesting thinking about those things and bringing it into light with what was just said here. Selby said, well, if we're out of tune, we could go to an objective source. Perhaps another person can tell us that's out of tune. Or perhaps a mechanical tuning device will register who's in tune and who's not, after a specific tuning criteria and standard has been set. That is narrow because we're not feeling the pitch anymore. We're only going by, it's right here, kind of a sight, sound, thinking thing. That's fine. But if we want to activate the other parts of us, which can offer us other information and knowledge, it's important not to shut that part off, but just always going to the outside. Because as Master Manlon was saying, tuning is a process of coming into proximity and eventual contact, to come into almost a unison with that something we're trying to tune into. And in this particular case, he's talking about pitch. It's a strong first overlay subject, and we will be talking about the overlays very soon, tomorrow. But it also has to do with tuning into the essence of the music. As a matter of fact, this whole Frequency Bone Summer Music connection, a lot of it is tuning into ourselves, to be able to connect to ourselves. And isn't tuning a part of the connection process? How can we connect to something if we're not tuning to it? If we're not trying to find where it lives and where it is? So, it's one thing to use the objective things outside of ourselves to reflect where we're at. But if we always are used to going outside, 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 we will be missing this marvelous machine, this marvelous original self, from activating its potential in its ability to guide and lead. And when you're working with another human being, tune into that other person. Say, hey, let's tune into each other, just like a real relationship. And then you'll start to feel each other. And this is where sometimes thinking of blend can actually help the intonation to such an incredible degree. Now, many people might have heard me say this many times, and might have heard my wife Carol say this many times as well. But you know what? It's very important to be reminded, I guess, outside of yourself again, to take these things up. Because unless you take them up, you won't actually see whether they're real. Can all sound kind of high, convoluted, pie in the sky stuff, abstract. No, it's only abstract if you haven't worked on it and made it your own and made it real for you. Oh, it's very real. It's very real. You see two people who haven't seen each other in a while, like two different pitches, because they're on two different pitches, okay? They're on two different rhythms, two different pitches, two different timbres, and they clash. And they have to find some common ground. So someone says, how's the weather today? And it sets up, oh yes, it's been raining a lot. And they go back and forth, and basically they start getting in tune on that level of life. There will be more TAC legend writing readings. And I hope you get something from them, and especially in light of looking at it from this seminar we're in. Frequency Bone Summer Music connection is the key word. See you all soon.